All right, so we came up with a video concept about Daniel Bryan and some of his classic matches that some people might not have seen. So we're going to call this Daniel Bryan, not necessarily the hidden classics, but Daniel Bryan Classics Volume 1. And the match I selected was Survival of the Fittest 2004. I think it's probably one of his best matches from ROH that doesn't get quite the amount of love as some of his other better ones do. But this match was from 2004. It was the first Survival of the Fittest. Samoa Joe was the ROH champion, but the ROH title was not on the line. There was qualifier matches, and the guys that qualified, they entered this match. It was like a 6-man elimination match. So we have Bryan Danielson, Austin Aries, Colt Cabana, Homicide, Mark Briscoe. Am I forgetting anybody?
I can't remember, but I forgot that Colt Cabana was in the match.
Colt Cabana, yeah.
That's right, yeah.
All right, so yeah, this really set the tone for how great the Austin Aries and Bryan Danielson rivalry will become in ROH. I think this is the best work they've done together. Now, the Aries and Danielson rivalry was kind of overshadowed by Nigel and Bryan Danielson, but you know, this was definitely one of the best matches of 2004. This is definitely one of those matches that really put, you know, ROH on the map, in my opinion. They just kind of continued the momentum from Joe versus Punk, which took place in June. Joe versus Punk won. But yeah, so what do you think of the match?
Well, I thought that just the talent in this match, you know, alone is just so much great talent. You know, once again, Austin Aries, Colt Cabana, Mark Briscoe when he was a skinny little guy.
He was only like 18 or 19 at the time.
Mark Briscoe was just starting in the business, and he was actually doing more athletic, more athleticism. He had more athleticism to him.
Yeah, he
at
was
that
healthy
point.
Back then. That's before his knees, you know, gave out on him.
Right, that makes sense. But there was so much great talent in this match, and it was really refreshing to watch this match. And I'm a big Daniel Bryan fan, American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. The crowd was so into it. Not a huge crowd, but just they were so into it the whole way. And this really goes back. If you're a Daniel Bryan fan and you haven't seen a match from this early point in his career, when he had the blue tights, he was coming out. He wasn't coming out to the final countdown yet. He was actually coming out to the Offspring music.
Self-esteem, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it was just really, you know, it was just interesting. You know, he was still forming his personality, but in the ring, he was incredible. I always loved watching his matches, but back then he was using so many different submission moves. You know, really in the sort of kind of like Dean Malenko. He had I can't even name.
Yeah, I think on the podcast with Jericho, he actually said Malenko was his favorite wrestler growing up, which was kind of surprising.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it's funny because I was never a big fan of Dean Malenko. But
I mean, he's a great wrestler, but you know, he had a worse personality than Roderick Strong.
Right, he's just that he was the man of 1,000 holds, and you could tell that you could see that influence.
Yeah, I mean, he just busted out everything, and he actually beat Jack Evans the qualifier match. This is not the actual match, but he had to qualify to get in this match, and. We'll talk about that submission used on Jack Evans. That was like a pretzel.
It's kind of like a Walls of Jericho. Only instead of hooking the guy by the legs, you're hooking him by the waist.
Yeah.
So you're really putting a lot of pressure on the neck and the lower back, the entire back, really. You know, and he uses the same. Can I spoil the finish of the match? Yeah. He uses the same submission to beat Austin Aries. I guess it was before he was doing cattle mutilation. Notice he didn't use it in this match anyway.
Aries countered it a couple times.
Oh yeah, a great counter, by the way. There's so many really good counters, so much good submission wrestling in this matchup. And you know, it's funny. You know, you mentioned Samoa Joe was the champion. Samoa Joe actually gets eliminated first. By Colt Cabana. Yeah. He actually beats him with a roll up, and it's kind of like, holy crap. Joe just got pinned, you know, and that doesn't happen very often.
No, that was actually the first time. I believe the first time Joe was pinned while he was the champion. I think low-key beat him, and Bryan Danielson might have beat him before he won the belt. But since Joe had won the belt in March 2003, I believe this is the only time Joe had been pinned. And then Cabana got a title shot because of it the next month at, I think it was Death Before Dishonor 2 in Milwaukee. But yeah, just some more information about the match. I mean, Homicide and Mark Briscoe, they just, beat the crap out of each other. Homicide was, vicious in this match. He was just ruthless. He was really aggressive back then. He was a great wrestler. He was on fire. Yeah, Cabana, great wrestling from Cabana. Briscoe took a lot of abuse, right? Mark Briscoe. You were kind of cheering for him.
I was cheering for him because he was definitely the underdog, and I was surprised to see that he didn't get eliminated first. I was just I thought he might stick it out to the finish with Danielson or Aries.
Yeah, Joe getting eliminated first was a shock, but all right, so Mark Briscoe and Homicide. I think Mark Briscoe actually did a German suplex, and both of them were they pinned each other, so they both got eliminated. Yeah. So it came down to Austin Aries and Bryan Danielson, and it really, this was the first match Austin Aries. This was like his breakout match in ROH. He never had a match besides this so this really put Austin Aries on the map. Even though he lost it, it was kind of like victory and defeat for him, because Danielson was already kind of established, from having the three-way with Daniels and Loki on the very first show. But it was really Austin Aries' coming out party, and back then he was really, he just put it all on the line. Him and Danielson just had a war out there. This was, like I said, this is probably the best work they've done together, which is saying a lot, because they've had best of 3 series. They had matches for the ROH title, but this really set the tone for their rivalry. It was just amazing stuff. I mean, is there anything else about the Aries and Danielson stuff that we want to cover? I mean, remember some of the European uppercuts were just brutal. Remember, Aries' chin was gashed open on 2 different parts of his chin.
Yeah,
He needed stitches to cover up his chin.
No, it was hard hitting. It was submission, high flying. I mean, it was everything. And you look back at this match. This is something that they either can't get away with, in WWE, or they can only do something like this on the indies.
Yeah, everyone was just wrestling their own style.
Right.
No one was held back or anything. You could just tell everyone was giving a full effort.
And those 2 guys, Danielson and Aries, when they were one-on-one, when they were the only 2 left, that was the longest part. That was longer.
Yeah, it was longer than the actual match before anyone else got eliminated.
Yeah, before everyone else got eliminated, it turned into a one-on-one match. It was almost a half hour long.
And the stuff that Danielson and Aries was doing was so good. You almost forgot about this being an elimination match with other guys in it. They really made you forget that the other guys were even involved. That's how good it was. Yeah. And some people consider this an Aries Danielson match, even though it's technically it's not really a one-on-one match.
Right.
But
just a lot of great, smart wrestling. Like you said, when Aries counters the cattle mutilation, all he did was put his leg over Danielson's arm.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like that's all he did. It's so simple, yet it's so effective. It's like, oh my God, I love that stuff. I just fall for that stuff. So
the interesting part about that is they had never wrestled before. So for Aries to know about the cattle mutilation, have it scouted, shows about his preparation. It's just breakout performance from Austin Aries once again. And it's kind of funny because Survival of the Fittest and ROH, the concept never really took off. This was really the only great one. For some reasons, it never lived up to, King of Trios with Jakara or, Battle of Los Angeles with PWG. It was never really a tournament that a lot of people, they still do it, but it just doesn't have the buzz that some of the other indie tournaments get. But, some of the things that did hurt the match, though, were the production values were pretty piss poor at the time. ROH was definitely in a rebuilding stage after the Robbie Feinstein, child molestation scandal. And the lighting was pretty bad. The ceiling was very low. So even when Aries went for the 450, he didn't really have a lot of room to kind of gauge how far he was going to drop.
That's indie wrestling. You know what? That's just indie wrestling. And, I used to joke about the production values. But the truth is, when you watch a match like this, you just don't care.
The intensity and the effort from everyone was just off the chart. Just great stuff. It's when we think back to 2004, the matches you remember are Joe versus Punk. They really saved the company. But this one doesn't really get the same amount of praise. It's kind of like an underrated classic, in my opinion. I gave it 5 stars a couple years ago, and then watching it again, I still have to say it's definitely on that 5-star level. But
really,
so that's pretty much it, guys. Let us know what Daniel Bryan match you'd like us to talk about next for Volume 2. we'll be open to some suggestions. But I have a couple ones I definitely want to cover. Low Key from PWG All-Star Weekend 6. And, you know, Roderick Strong from Vendetta. Those are the other two ones I really want to do. But let me know what you guys think. I can't post a link in the description because I don't think this is on YouTube. I'm not sure, but you probably have to Google it. Maybe you could find a site that you could actually watch this on the computer. The DVD is actually out of stock. Maybe you could find it on eBay. But Survival of the Fittest 2004, got any final thoughts?